Greetings to you. Today's session, Chapter 1 from your VISTAS textbook, the third level. If you have had any curious experience or if you have lived in a world of imagination, then that is all what is there in this lesson. My previous lesson from the VISTAS, the Tiger King. If you all have watched it and learned the lesson, then wonderful. But if you have not, then stay connected to the link below in the description box. It's very important that you do your study timely and do not pile up for a tomorrow. With this, let me take you to the third level lesson. The author, Jack Finney, is an American writer and his works are related to science fiction, thrillers and comedy. In the third level, he has shown interest to time travel. Now, what is this time travel? Have you all heard about what you mean by time travel? It is a concept of movement within certain points of time. There are two types of time travel. One, into the future. And the other one, to the past. So one into the future and the other one into the past. To the past. Is it possible? It is definitely not possible. Nobody will believe that you have time traveled to the past. It looks something strange. So the lesson third level is everything to do with the hero wherein he has time traveled to the past. So going into the details of the lesson, you need to know the title, theme, conclusion and the characters. So what is the title, theme, the characters and the conclusion? So let's check out what is the title of the story. So when I say title, it refers to the subway of the Grand Central Station. So subway means a place where you catch trains and metros, and Grand Central Station is a subway in New York. Now, how is this related to the third level? In this station, you have only two levels. It is widely proved that, and everybody believes that there is only two levels, the first level and the second level. But the hero of the story says that there is a third level. So that becomes the medium of escape for the hero or the protagonist. Did you get me right? I meant to say that the title refers to the subway of the Grand Central Station and the protagonist or the hero of the story, that this becomes a medium for his escape. So there is a interweaving of fantasy and reality in this story. So this is the title. So what is the theme? What is the theme of the story? The theme of the story is escapism. It's a tendency wherein you will seek to get distracted from the unpleasant realities of life. So that is escapism. Here, the desire to stay with a past or to keep the past alive. That means time travel. So the theme of the lesson is time travel. So knowing the theme, let us check out the characters of the lesson. You have three characters, Charlie, his wife Louisa, and a psychiatrist by name Sam. I repeat, Charlie, he is the protagonist, is the hero of the story. Louisa is his wife, and there is a psychiatrist by name Sam. And where does this story happen at all? It just revolves around this place, the Grand Central Station, New York. To give you a simple example, take me. I'll be on my morning walks and I get to see a lot of stray dogs or cat, buffaloes or cow. But if I just go into imagination that my morning walk is with dinosaurs, how does it look? I come back home and to my family and friends, I'll tell them, hey listen, I walked, my morning walk today was with the dinosaurs. You know what happened? That happened, this happened. What do they think of me? They'll think that I've gone mad. Something is very weird in what I speak. And they suggest that I get counseled by a psychiatrist. So that is where the psychiatrists come into picture. So with this, you can get a gist that something is wrong with the hero of the story, and that is how the psychiatrist is related. So now, knowing the characters, you have 3 characters and the whole story revolves in the Grand Central Station. Let us see what is the conclusion. How does the story conclude at all? So the conclusion of the story, the writer wants to escape from the modern world to peaceful and quiet old times. The writer wants to escape from the modern world to the peaceful and quiet old times. This happens to us also, isn't it? Sometimes we also realize constantly that we move from present, past and future. So this is the conclusion to the story. Now, since I have told you all the author, the theme, the title and how does the story conclude, my next part is going to be a visual representation for you that makes you understand the story in a simpler way, and while you read the textbook, you can connect it. So you need to pay your attention for the next 3 to 4 minutes on the screen. I'll be off screen for a while. I'll come back after that. This story is based in New York. There was a regular working man named Charlie who is the main character of the story. One day, he had a long day at work. In order to get home, he chose to take the subway instead of a bus. Usually, he takes a bus. Since it was late night, he took a subway, which is a fancy word for a train or a metro in New York. To proceed, we can get to know the personality of Charlie by his hobbies. Among his various hobbies, one of them was a stamp collection in which he always wished to revisit the olden times. Surprisingly, he had taken after his grandfather, who was also into the same hobby. Another character of his says he really liked recollecting how cities and old times were in the past, and this is evident in various parts of the story. Now that Charlie's personality is quite familiar to all of us here, moving on, in order to get back, he chose to take the train instead of the bus. To do so, he went to Grand Central Station, which is very famous subway station in New York. It is widely agreed that in the modern world and in the past, the Grand Central Station has 2 underground levels where one can board the train. This is where the story leads to time travel. Charlie claims that the Grand Central Station has 3 levels. Why does he do so? When he went to Grand Central Station in order to buy tickets, he took the staircase down, which took him to a very different environment, which he says that it's 3rd level of Grand Central Station. The people dressed differently. The informative booth and the ticket counter were different from the other 2 levels, which were very familiar to him. In addition to that, he had visited a very different environment. He looks at newspapers sold by a little boy, and it pointed to the newspaper published on June 11, 1894. It was published by the World, which has now been discontinued. So this gave him confidence that he has traveled into the past, but he could not believe it, because naturally for any modern man, if he has traveled 200 or 100 years back, it comes as a surprise. But Charlie saw this wonderful town during those days, houses with big old frames, summer evenings, different style of people, etc. It was when he wanted to buy 2 tickets for him and his wife to go to Galesburg, Illinois, but the clerk in the ticket counter refused to issue the tickets because he had modern currency. So he gets back home. Next day, when he recollects the story to his friends and family, they couldn't believe either, and they blamed on his characteristic personality. Just to remind you, Charlie, being an old-timer, liked to talk about cities of past, and he had a passion of stamp collection. Louis 5 was pretty worried and did not want Charlie to speak about the past. Nobody was believing him, and this left Charlie frustrated, and he decided to meet a psychiatrist. While he discussed the same with a psychiatrist, he also had the similar reaction. Now, the psychiatrist is known by his name Sam. The only difference that Sam was he was also a man of the past time. Now, the psychiatrist was known by the name Sam. He was also a person of past time. Days progressed and Charlie's interest now was to search for the third level. But one day the psychiatrist went missing and nowhere he was found. When everyone was worried, Charlie speculated that Sam would have gone in search of third level, and to go there, old currency were required to buy tickets. So he goes to the place where he got old currency and asks if anyone had come on that day to buy old currency. To confirm his speculation, there was indeed someone who had bought old currency, and that someone, Charlie guessed it was Sam. Since Charlie was fairly confident that Sam had taken the currency and gone to third level and did not want to return and wanted to settle in the previous year, that is 1894. In order to verify this stipulation, Charlie remembers that in his grandfather's stamp collection, there was an old envelope which was not opened. So, when he opens the same, much to his surprise, the envelope was dated 1894. He opens to see that it was from his psychiatrist, Sam. This confirms to Charlie that Sam was in the third level and does not want to come back, and hence invites Louis and Charlie to come back through this letter. With a visual representation and the summary that I narrated to you, I hope you have understood what is the lesson third level, but that doesn't stop you there. You have to open your textbook and read the lesson thoroughly. While you read, look into all these things. The personality of Charlie is been elaborately explained to you in the textbook. Going further, the characteristics of Sam too. There's a lot of explanation. And the Grand Central Station, how does it look and what is it and how big is it, what happens to Charlie there. The entire detail is there in the textbook for you to read. And to conclude, you also need to go through Sam's letter to Charlie in detail. By doing so, you will collect keywords, key notes, so that it will be easier for you to answer the question. The most important part of the lesson, you need to know what are the questions that you will be tested on. So, look at your short answer questions for 2 marks. What does the title refer to? What happens when Charlie is buying the tickets? What is the significance of the third level? How does Charlie get lost in the Grand Central Station? Why does the clerk refuse to accept the money from Charlie? That being your short answer questions. And your long answers. What is the medium of escape in third level? How does the letter of Sam that he wrote to Charlie, what does that signify? Or how do you feel that the modern world, why do you feel insecurity in the modern world? How did Charlie reach the Grand Central Station? What happened after that? And what was the medium of escape? How do you prove it? So like this, you will have long answers for 6 marks. You need to read the text. While doing so, you need to analyze. You need to, think beyond the textbook. You need to learn how to criticize and how to opine your answers. So this being your kind of questions you're going to get, type 1 for 2 marks and type 2 for 6 marks. Let me recap with what I have taught you today. I have told you all about the title and the author. I have told you all the central theme and the characters, and I have narrated the summary for you with a visual presentation, and also I have touched on the expected questions. To conclude, Dear children, I hope I have made the lesson simpler for you to understand. It is up to you that open your textbook, turn the pages and read the lesson in detail. I'll see you in my next session. Accept the things the way they are. Until then, all smiles to you. Bye-bye.